Oh, hi, I didn't see you there. What? You want to know what is the most important skill to become a software developer? That's easy. It's unbelievable, right? Hello and welcome, fellow coders. Have you ever wondered what separates good programmers from fantastic ones? As software developers, you need to know a lot of skills in order to succeed, but you cannot learn them all at once. But what if I tell you a secret? There's one particular skill that you can learn that will leapfrog your career way faster than learning any other skill. It would be better to focus on this one, right? So let's find out which is, at least in my humble opinion, the number one skill that you can learn in order to become an outstanding software developer. But before we jump into it, I need to get out a few things. First of all, if you are new to coding, then learning a programming language is the number one skill that you should focus on. In today's video, I'm going to talk about a particular skill that you should pick up after you mastered the basics, kind of like the best next step. Secondly, there is no one skill to rule them all. As a software developer, you need to learn all bunch of stuff. Not only writing code, but also testing and software engineering and things like being a good team player. This video is not about picking one skill and forgetting about the rest. It's more like picking a skill and then paying a little more attention to it. And the last thing I want to say is that in the past I've spent a lot of time and effort to become better at software engineering. But some of the things I learned were a total waste of time. So to prevent you from wasting your time, I just wanted to tell you what I think is the number one skill that you should learn. But you have to elaborate for yourself. This is just my personal opinion based on my personal experience. Now that that's out of my system, let's begin. The first skill I want to talk about is the most obvious one, and that is having excellent programming skills, or rather becoming an expert at one particular language or technology. In today's rapidly changing world, where most teams work by using any kind of agile framework, if you want to quote-unquote make it as a software developer, knowing 2 or 3 languages is nothing more than a mandatory skill. 15 or 20 years back, where software was written once and maintained for several years, if you had knowledge about a specific skill that was highly in demand, you would have been the king of the hill. But today, we have Google. Rewriting a service in a different language or swapping out a database is not only daily business, but can also be done by literally anyone with a few years of experience and the holy grail called the internet. So having a very deep understanding of a language or a framework is not that important anymore. I am sure that a lot of people will disagree on that, and I can totally understand. Of course, it's incredibly beneficial, but to me, it is not the one skill that will let you stand out. So ironically, I think that having outstanding programming skills does not make you an outstanding programmer. Sounds weird, I know. Most software developers work in teams ranging from 5 to 10 people, so naturally, when working and interacting with other people, having good communication skills is always great. But is being great at communication the one skill that you will need in order to succeed? I don't think so. Personally, I prefer working with 5 other people who have only halfway decent programming skills but are fantastic team players, rather than working with 5 of the best coders in the world who have the people skills of a wooden statue. Having good communication skills will help you make your points more clear when you have technical discussions with your coworkers, or sure will help you when you try to convince the management about certain decisions you and your team have made. But being an awesome team player or having fantastic people skills unfortunately does not make you an outstanding programmer. Is having a deep understanding of the field you're working in, if you would consider it to be a skill, something that will propel you to the top? I don't think so. And quite frankly, and that is absolutely my personal opinion, I think it's a total waste of time. Yeah, I said it, now calm down. Most companies have product owners, product managers, or any other sort of domain specialist as part of their team, or at least a handful of people who know the customers, who know the product fit, and all the other stuff you need to know in order to make sophisticated decisions about the product or the direction it should go. So for instance, if you would be a part of the team that is writing a cryptocurrency trading platform, would it help to understand how all the different blockchains and layer 1 solutions work? What the difference between all the candlestick chart patterns are and how to interpret them? Or what the strengths and weaknesses of all the different indicators are? So basically learn all the stuff a pro trader needs to know in order to do his job. Well, It definitely wouldn't hurt. But I think that if someone explained to you how the calculations of the MACD work, you would still be able to implement it even though you thought it was the new burger from McDonald's. So no, domain knowledge is a skill that I think will not let you become an outstanding programmer. If you have any kind of question, just talk to the specialist instead of wasting valuable time to learn it by yourself. Okay, now that we ruled out these three, what actually is the most important, most valuable, most in-demand skill that you can learn in order to become an outstanding software developer that every team is glad to have? Like every other YouTuber, drum roll, it is the skill to solve problems. But why do I think that problem solving is that important? Well, no matter if you work as an employee, as a freelancer, or have your own software company, you are getting paid to bring value to your customers. And you do that mostly by solving their problems, right? Let me give you an example that will hopefully make it clear. A few years ago, I was helping out a few trainees and two of them had more or less the same experience level. They were both good programmers, they had fantastic people skills, and I really enjoyed working with them. But the one thing that differentiated them the most was the level of problem solving ability. If I gave them the same task or problem to solve, they both went into their offices and started working on that. And most of the time, they came back later and started asking questions. One trainee, let's call him Jim, asked questions like, I understand the problem, but can you please help me figuring out where to start? Or something like, I store all these data into the database, but what data do I need to send to the front end? Now let's compare this to trainee number 2, John. When he came to me, he asked questions like, okay, I've split the problems into 3 parts. This seems to be the biggest pain point I need to solve first. Would you agree? Or something like, I've been talking to the product manager and he told me that most of the customers will use their mobile phones to connect to the new feature. So I have to make sure not to send too much data to the front end, right? So did you notice the difference? When Jim was asking questions, I had the feeling that I needed to basically solve the problem for him, whereas John was solving the problem for me and only needed confirmation. As I started noticing the difference between the questions these two were asking, it kind of made click in my brain. That was actually the point in my career where I realized I needed to focus on my problem solving skills rather than on my technical skills. Because I experienced firsthand how it felt like to be accountable for the outcome of a project and having people with different level of problem solving skills working for me. Okay, now back to Jim and John. If you had to pick one of them to be your coworker, which one would you pick? Both of them have basically the same level of experience and are a pleasure to work with, but one needs a little bit of help while solving problems, while the other solves the problem for you. See? Now let's take it even one step further. You are now the manager of a company and want to hire one person. And the screening process so far has narrowed it down to Jim and John. On resume, they both look identical. So during their interviews, you give them the same problem to solve, and both do. But you notice that John needs a little less help and asks better questions. So I bet I know which one you would hire. Speaking of hiring, if you apply for a job at a big tech company like Google, Amazon or Facebook, there is a reason why there will always be a problem-solving part during the interviews. These companies, even though they get applications from probably the best coders in the world, they don't hire you because of your fantastic coding skills. They hire you because of your fantastic problem-solving skills. And I think the success that these companies have speaks for itself. Coding is just a tool you need to learn in order to solve problems, and quite frankly, something that you can learn more or less easily. It's like learning a foreign language. First you struggle and you are only able to understand bits and pieces, but with practice and time, you become better and in the end you will be able to speak English, French or whatever it is you are trying to learn. And the same goes for coding. In the beginning you of course need to learn the syntax, but with practice and time you will become a fully fledged software developer and are able to build systems from A to Z. So coding is a skill that you can learn if you put in the time. But problem solving on the other hand is way harder to learn and it takes much more time to develop. And even if you put in the time, the results will show way later, maybe only after years. But the impact that improving problem solving skills will have on your career will be so much worth it. Even more so if you start freelancing or start your own business. So there you have it. Even if you're not the best coder, your domain knowledge is basically non-existent and you can sometimes be a pain in the rear. If you know how to solve problems well and help your team come up with great solutions, you will still be the most valuable person in the team. And that is why I personally think that problem solving is the #1 skill that you need to learn in order to become an outstanding software developer. So problem solving, huh? Do you agree with me that this is the most important skill that you should learn? And was it your first guess? Please let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed watching this video, please let me know by hitting the like button and of course subscribe to the channel if you are new. And until next time, keep on coding!